Well, I'm Brrraains here from Games, Brains and Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short, and it is track by track time as we are taking a look at the album Dirges by the band, well, the solo project, if you want, as well, and now the Owls. I'm struggling to say it, and now the Owls are smiling. Got to say it one slower. It's the atmospheric black metal band, and this album was released in January 29th, 2021 by Clobber Records. I just got to throw this out there. It's no secret. If you know the site, I have been following this band for years and covering all the albums from the last probably 5 or 6 years up until the end. If you're not already aware, which I guess you might not be, Brendan, and now the Owls Are Smiling is over. It ended with the album that followed this, Epitaph, and basically put that one to bed, did what I needed to do with it, moving on musically. So this is the penultimate album of the band / project. Do you have any familiarity with them?
Not really, no. I do feel like I recognise the name a bit, but I mean so little so that I actually wasn't 100% certain until I started writing it whether the band's name was Dirges or not. And also I kept getting it mixed up in my head because isn't there a very similar named album? Is it by gbhblofficial or something like that? But anyway, and I kept getting that mixed up in my head. But yeah, so I don't, I don't know them well enough. I certainly haven't listened to this album. I'm actually just.
But musically, atmospheric black metal, it's in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, I did, like, as he sort of always do with these things, did a little bit of research at the beginning to see what I was getting into. And I was like, oh, okay, this will be comfortable enough.
And it is an album of misery, folks. We'll let you know that right now. Yes, so it's got that. Are you looking it up?
I'm looking up, and now the eyes are smiling.
You just did it. Now you just did it. Now the eyes are smiling.
Yeah, fucking hell, stupid fucking name that is.
Okay, while you're doing that.
Yeah. Maybe it's not there. Maybe it's somebody else.
No,
anyway, doesn't matter.
Okay, right. Let's start with Dirge 1. And it is Grief. The sound of waves and a chorus of voices makes this a haunting but peaceful introduction to the album. Enjoy the shortness of this intro because short songs isn't really what And Now the Owls Are Smiling do. So I'm sure you've seen that in the track listing and stuff. This is just an easy win, basically, and it's nice.
Yeah, I agree. It's nice. It's, yeah, like having looked at the tracks and seen how long they were, you can kind of looks like a bit of an intro. Little atmospheric start, sound of the waves and water. I like the little folk singing bit that joined the back end. I think it sets it up nicely, gets you kind of in the mood, in the zone, which is probably what its purpose was, and that works. So yeah, cool.
Dirge 2, Rejection. Case in point about the length, this track passes the 8.5-minute mark, combining effective melancholy with savage black metal intensity. The emotion is thick in this one, and it comes from a dark and heavy place. It's a fascinating listen. The melody is driving so much of the passion, but it's still being impressively heavy.
Yeah, very, very slow, very somber, but packs a load of feeling and emotion into those early notes. I like how it quickly grabs your attention. The higher, clean melodies play off the darker, bassy tones very well, and then obviously explodes into a heavier sound, which, because I didn't know the band particularly well, I kind of felt like something would happen at some point, because of the style, but it still kind of came unexpectedly, but it worked. I wasn't expecting it when it came. So, little jump. I like the vocals. I like the fuzziness and the sort of, I guess, raw kind of edge to it, but I also like how the melody punches through that darkness to offer those little glimpses of sort of light in the background, a bit of contrast, really. It's quite typical of the genre. I don't mean that in a negative way. It just is. If you said to me like what the genre was, which I looked at anyway, this is what I thought I would hear. But I don't mean that in a negative way. I like the genre, so I'm not complaining. I just think it's a fine example of it. It's done well, so enjoying
I think you've nailed that there. This is my go-to example of, oh, what does an atmospheric black metal sound like? I would say here's a really strong example of it.
Yeah.
Dirge 3, Darkness. Now, I thought it was worth pointing out here at this stage, even though it's quite early on, that this album is a mentally draining experience. And while I'm far from feeling that at this stage, it's here that I think that it will become apparent potentially for a lot of people who maybe aren't into this style of music, maybe aren't used to really long tracks, who might go, ooh, this is going to take a lot out of me. This is one of the harshest and most painful offerings on the entire album. The black metal crashing and banging, all while the melodies tear the soul apart. Incredibly, though, there's almost a triumphant feel to it. Don't reject the darkness, embrace it.
Yeah, no messing about with this start of this one as it goes straight off. Nice and chunky sound with strong drums and riffs and that underlying sort of meandering melody that's quite hypnotic to listen to. I think the vocals sit very, very far back, so quite black metal. They're impossible to understand completely. I had no idea what you're saying 99% of the time across this album, and I couldn't find the lyrics.
Yeah.
And just became but because the vocals sit so far back, they just kind of become like another instrument in the mix, and that works really, really well. So it's almost like, you know, like it's you don't really need to know what he's saying. Like it's not important really in the context of being able to like appreciate the song, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think also it works really, really well being that far back, but it also helps to maintain that strong overall atmosphere that was sort of set in at the first track, Grief, and you're still sort of in that zone now. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't feel like it's only 3 tracks in, but you don't feel like after you kind of get grabbed and pulled into that atmosphere at the first part of Dirge 1, like there's no points in the songs, like breaks between the songs or anything like that, where you feel like you slip out of it. You're just sort of like fully kind of immersed and buried in it, really. I do think it puts a good job of putting across that title as well. It does feel dark, and you do feel darkness. I like the little slowed down section with the tapping drums. The vocals become a little bit clearer in that, and that subdued melody is there still, just kind of winding away in the back of your head. For me, out of the songs that I've heard so far, this was my favorite. I thought it was a great track.
It is indeed. And great choice of words for using the word buried as we reach Dirge 4, Solitude, because for me, this is filled with subterranean bleakness and emotionally charged heaviness. It is a highlight of how And Now the Owls Are Smiling combines comfort and loneliness. It's a perfect example of how cold a record can make you feel while not being off-putting in any way.
Yeah, intro is really cool. I like the intro. I like the little softer sort of kind of choiry. I don't know what it is, like folk choir, something like that. Vocals. They're not used like an awful lot, but they're there on a couple of songs, and I like it. It jumps into life with real force. It's powerful, punchy track. I like the different vocal tinges in use, and I really like how the song is structured. But that's actually all of them so far as well. So
yeah,
but yeah, in this one, first time I decided to bother mention it. It does occasionally have a bit of a wall of sound thing, and that can make it difficult to pick out individual moments in songs. Instead, making it feel more like you're being drowned or smothered by the track. But I imagine that is completely intentional, and that just makes it even more impressive. It's another fine song with plenty of atmosphere, great drumming, strong riffing, perfectly placed melody, and showcases some true talent.
Check it. Dirge 5, Lucidity. It's just a break from the beautiful misery. It's a short intermission, extremely atmospheric, and has some really touching melody. Again, really like this.
Yeah, I wrote this down because I was thinking it at the time, so I did write down. I was thinking they should switch things up a little bit now, as another song in the exact same format might just start sounding repetitive, no matter how much I'm enjoying it. So I'm glad that they had the intelligence to also see that. And I know I keep referring to they, but I know you said it's a single person, so.
I always do that as well. Whenever it's a solo thing, I always use the term they, because it's
the band,
you still refer to it as a band, yeah.
Yeah, him and all of his personalities, I guess we'll go with. But yeah, so I appreciated the fact that had been sort of recognized as well. Instead, we got this shorter track that acts as a bit of an intermission and kind of a bit of a breather. It still works though well as a track of its own, though. That's the thing. It doesn't feel like it's just like a pointless intermission or anything like that. And that was quite important for me across this whole album, that whenever they did anything like this, that it didn't take you out of the zone. You know what I mean? Like if it was just like, oh, we're just gonna have 30 seconds of, I don't know, fuzz or something like
Yep.
that, like it would take me out of it. And it was like it's important to keep me in there. And because and I thought that's what this track did. You know, it did what the title suggests. It offers a little moment of lucidity with its crystal clear ringing melody, just keeping you enough locked in to that atmosphere so that you're refreshed still, but ready and still in there for the next track that comes.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting you say that because, like, to me, I use this as a good example of like, you know, it works. You get your music at random, and sometimes an intro and intermission comes that you're familiar with, and you just skip it because you already know what it is. I don't think this is one you would skip. Like, you'd be like,
No, I
cool,
think
we'll leave this on.
yeah, it's a song on its own.
All right, well, up to Dirge 6, and it is Pointlessness, Forlorn Misery, soul tearing and featuring ruthless sounds. This track is a thing of beauty. Undeniably a black metal piece of music. Just listen to the heavy instrumentation and the vocals, but fuck me, are the melodies so grand here. One of the most epic sounding tracks on the album. It is utter beauty, and it is my favorite track in the album.
Yeah, I did. My first line I wrote was like, "Wow, how gorgeous is that melody in the intro?" It's a really captivating sound, and I still felt like I could hear it even after it had been faded out and replaced by the impressive assault of emotional but very, very heavy music. I love all the melodies throughout. I like the way that they lead through large sections of the song. They drive it forwards. They hold your attention. But then those melodies, whereas often they've been like a part of the song, and here they seem to be the focus of the song, and instead it's the melody backed by this powerful force of drums, riffs, and vocals. So yeah, same as well. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's definitely up there. I think it's a very, very good, very, very good one.
Penultimate one then, Dirge 7, Acceptance. And, you know, similar to you, I also write pretty much as I'm going along. Like, when the thoughts pop in my head from what I'm hearing. So I wrote, I'm going to miss this band. Because obviously they're gone now. Once again, with this track, they make me feel so much across 8+ minutes. It's a track with heightened misery, but again, one built upon opening the heart and soul up to let the darkness in. You can't run from it. Just accept it. The cleaner vocals and lower melodic tempo means this one stands out strongly too. A little variation on what we're doing.
Yeah, I like the extended intro a lot, and I really like the slightly cleaner vocal style. But because I was listening to it through my phone, I was really, really struggling. So I had to put my headphones in because there were points where I couldn't even actually tell if he was singing. So I was like, I just put my headphones in because I can't quite understand what's going on. And anyway, that doesn't really matter. That's not a criticism. That's just what happened.
Yeah.
Slower punch of the track's quite appealing. Gorgeous melody contrasts wonderfully with the raw and aggressive, distorted tones. The scream vocals sitting behind it all add real depth and power. And while it is a very long song, it seems to fly by as I find myself quite transfixed by it all. I think this is absolutely lovely and brilliant stuff with a lovely fading out melody at the end too.
And it's perfect because it leads into Dirge A, Ascension, and it's an outro. Think about it, we had an intro, we had an intermission. It was always going to have an outro, and it's one built upon soul rendering ambience and melody. This one actually feels so final, and it does feel like an ascension. To where? Who knows? But it sure seems peaceful. It makes me smile. It's a sad smile, but a smile nonetheless.
That was very like fucking redneck. Sure seems peaceful.
Did it? Oh, God.
Yeah, it's quite a dreamy sort of close. It feels quite like a natural song as well. Like not like as in nature. I don't know why that I wrote that, but that's what I was feeling at the time. I felt like it felt like nature, and I think it suits the album very, very well, and it works very, very nicely in closing out the story and almost easing you out of the probably quite hypnotized or dreamlike state. I found myself had entered through it. Not quite so aware of time, or I was sitting in my office at work, sort of listening away and being like, "Oh shit," snap out of it, Brendan. So yeah, look, it's an outro track, but it's still like the intro track, like the intermission in the middle. It still feels like a track in its own right, and it closes the album out very, very nicely as well. So,
and that's it. It is, for all its long tracks, kept succinct. It's not overblown, not overdrawn. 8 dirges and one intro, one outro, one intermission. So technically just 5 full tracks. So that brings us to the top 3. So you can take this one away.
Cool. So in no particular order, acceptance, pointlessness, and darkness.
2 out of 3. I also have darkness and pointlessness, but I have gone for rejection as my 3rd one. And that is Dirges by And Now the Owls Are Smiling. Where do you sit on this one? You got any thoughts? You know what to do? Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see more content like this, please consider hitting the subscribe button. It is gratefully appreciated. You can find us over at gbhbl.com, our full website where reviews, news and so much more goes up daily. We're also on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Threads, at gbhbl. Just search for gbhbl and you will find us out there. We also have merchandise on sale. You can access the shop via the website.